Beginning with the name of Allah Almighty, the Most Merciful, I, Dr. Sidra, welcome you to the first crash revision session of physiology organized by the Medicos Academics. We have arranged these sessions for the first year MBBS students who are appearing in the professional exam for the very first time, keeping the current situation under consideration and seeing how exams have been postponed a number of times, forcing students to undertake multiple revisions. We aspire to facilitate you through this revision process and to make things a little easier for you. We are going to assume that by now you have prepared yourself well for the exams in terms of going through your books and your notes. So we shall only be focusing on the exam lying ahead. For the first time exam takers, the revision can itself appear quite overwhelming, mostly because of the amount of syllabus. So what we shall be sharing with you is how and what to revise. Okay, so just let's jump right into it. Today I'll be walking you through homeostasis and cell physiology. So the first problem that we are going to face is that how to revise all of it. The syllabus is vast and you don't have this much time and this much brain to stuff it all in. So what you should know is that you do not have to revise everything. You have to filter stuff out. And then what you are going to do, you are going to break it all down. Okay, let's break our topics down that we are going to revise today. We are going to start with the homeostasis. Homeostasis can be broken down into these three topics. Why these three topics, you may ask? Because we are going to revise keeping the exams in our minds and nothing else. These three topics have been taken from the most frequently asked questions in your examinations. Not all of these topics are asked in the form of short essay questions, but they are also asked as MCQs. So whenever you are going to revise homeostasis, you are not going to miss revising these three topics. Are the concept and functional importance of homeostasis itself, control systems and characteristics of those control systems, and constituents of extracellular fluid. Okay, let's break down cell structure and functions. We'll be looking at plasma membrane, cytoplasm, organelles, and some other topics. As for the plasma membrane, we'll be focusing on the lipid bilayer and its functional importance, and we'll be looking into membrane proteins and their functions. As for the cytoplasm, we'll be looking at its composition and functions, and we'll be revising the physiology of cytoskeletal elements. And then there are some important organelles we are going to revise, and then some other topics, specifically cell to cell adhesion and molecular motors. As far as genetics is concerned, there is a great overlap between physiology and biochemistry. So whenever you are going to revise genetics and physiology, you are only going to focus on a number of things. You have to acquaint yourself with the concepts of genome and proteome, the DNA structure, types of RNA, frequently asked question that is, and transcription and translation. You do not have to go into the details of these topics. I shall be telling you when we will be revising these topics, that what exactly is required. Okay. The next domain is membrane transport. It is divided into simple diffusion, osmosis, carrier mediated transport, and vesicular transport. As for the carrier mediated transport, we will be looking at the facilitated diffusion, primary and secondary active transports. And for the vesicular transport, we will be focusing on endocytosis, phagocytosis, and exocytosis. So you can consider these as your revision maps, and it is a good practice to make your own revision maps whenever you are going to revise anything, so that you do not lose focus and you do not go into unnecessary details. Okay, let's start with the homeostasis. You should know the definition of homeostasis, which means the maintenance of nearly constant conditions in the internal environment of the body. Now, the concept of internal environment of the body is also very important. The internal environment of the body is equivalent to the extracellular fluid present inside us. Why? Because extracellular fluid is in constant motion throughout the body, which entails that ECF is in contact with almost every part of the body, every cell of the body. It can be transported rapidly in the circulating blood and then mixed between the blood and tissue fluids by diffusion through the capillary walls. So not only will it reflect any changes that may be occurring intracellularly, but it can also help in reverting those changes. In the ECF are the ions and nutrients which are needed by the cells to maintain life. So this is the medium that has to be maintained at nearly constant conditions. You should be very clear about the term extracellular fluid. What does it mean? As its very name indicates, the extracellular fluid is that fluid which is present outside the cells. If we look into it, we can divide body water into two compartments. One of those compartments is present inside the cells. The majority of the body fluid is present in that compartment, and that compartment is known as the intracellular fluid compartment. Now, the extracellular fluid compartment is further divided into two subcompartments. One of them is the interstitial fluid and the other is plasma, or the fluid part of the blood. So, whenever we are talking about ECF, we are talking about plasma and the interstitial fluid. Okay, now let's look into the chemical compositions of ECF and ICF. You probably have seen so many tables containing so many values and you still do not know which of those values you have to remember. So now here is a table which is going to make things a little easier for you. If you look at it, you can see the constituents listed in this table. Some of those are highlighted with blue color. These are the constituents, the values of which you have to remember both in the ECF and in the ICF. Furthermore, if you look at it, the ECF and the ICF columns, they have certain values which are highlighted. These highlighted values indicate that the following constituent is present in the greater amount in that compartment. For example, sodium. You have to remember its value in the ECF, which is about 142 milliequivalents per liter. There is a range, but this median you can remember. And then there is potassium. Potassium is present in the greater amount in the ICF. It is the intracellular ion and it is present in greater amount in the ICF. You have to remember its value in the ICF and also in the ECF as well. You have to remember the values of all those important constituents in the ECF, because as we have seen, it is reflective of body's internal environment and that is where the change is going to take place. Next, you can see bicarbonate. It is highlighted. It is predominantly an ECF anion and it is present in the greater quantity in the ECF. As for the glucose, you have to remember its value in the ECF and the pH you have to remember in the ECF. Now, why only these values you should know? Because these are the frequently used constituents in your examination scenarios. So, you have to know the normal values in order to pick up any changes. Now that we have revised all the important information about the compartment in which the homeostasis is going to be maintained at, we should familiarize ourselves with the concept of control systems. Homeostasis, as you are going to find out throughout your course of physiology, is essential for the survival of cells which make up the body systems, and these body systems, they maintain homeostasis. Here you should know about the homeostatically regulated factors. These are the factors which can be changed. Concentration of nutrients, concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide, concentration of waste products, pH, concentrations of water, salt and other electrolytes, volume and pressure, and temperature. These are the factors which should not change for the optimal functioning of the body, but if they change, these body systems can fix them or bring them back to normal. Circulatory system, respiratory, digestive, urinary, skeletal, integumentary, immune, nervous, and endocrine. Almost all the systems of the body are responsible for maintaining homeostasis, except for the reproductive system. Characteristics of control systems. We should know how the control systems actually achieve homeostasis. What are the mechanisms they employ? So, in the column, in the black, you can see 4 control mechanisms: negative feedback, positive feedback, feed forward, and adaptive control. For each of these mechanisms, we are going to see how these mechanisms are brought about, their characteristics, and some examples. These characteristics of control system, they make for excellent short essay questions and some very interesting MCQs. Whenever you get a short essay question that asks you, for example, to write a note on any of these mechanisms, this is how you are going to go about it. First, you are going to explain how that mechanism operates, then you are going to write its characteristics, and you are going to justify your answer with an example or two, depending upon the marks distribution. Going to look at each of these control mechanisms one by one, starting off with the negative feedback. Its mechanism is, it is initiated if some factor becomes excessive or deficient. It consists of a series of changes that return the factor toward a certain mean value. So basically, whatever has been changed is brought back. Characteristics: most control systems of the body act by negative feedback. Some of the examples you can write in your answers: regulation of carbon dioxide concentration, the arterial pressure regulating mechanisms. Please remember that it is a revision session and we are not going to go into details of everything, but whenever you are going to attempt a question that asks you of the control systems, you are going to justify your answer with an example, and you are going to write your example in a little bit of detail. But we are not going to go in those details right now. You can find them in your books. But these examples should be at the top of your head. Positive feedback. The mechanism involves initiating stimulus causes more of the same, as indicated by its very name. Characteristics: it leads to instability rather than stability. So positive feedback in our body settings usually is not very favorable for maintaining homeostasis, but it can be useful if it is indirectly involved in homeostasis, that it is not directly involved but rather indirectly involved. Examples for both the harmful and useful settings you can see right here. In the setting of hemorrhage, ultimately which leads to diminished heart pumping. More and more blood is lost, coronary blood flow decreases, and heart pumping is eventually diminished. Cytokine storm, a COVID-19 complication. You might have heard of it. You should always be familiar with the latest medical conditions going on, as these can be cited in your papers and a question can come in that way. So you should always be familiar with the newer conditions. Useful in the setting of blood clotting, as exemplified by the clotting cascade, the setting of childbirth, and in the nerve signal generation. Again, you can see more about these examples from your books. As for the feed forward, the mechanism involves acting in the same direction the pathway is moving. Very important to remember that it acts in the same direction the pathway is moving. Basically, it is facilitating the pathway. Useful when feedback loops could be slower than the required action. Several neurological loops employ feed forward mechanism and the metabolic pathways, in which one metabolite can further accelerate a reaction at a later point. Next is the adaptive control. Its mechanism involves information gathered from an ongoing action. Instead of immediate correction, adaptive actions alter the way the system will respond to future such action. Characteristics, also known as delayed negative feedback, important for long-term regulation. For example, body movements, motor system. Whenever you are doing something, you may be doing it wrong for the first time, that is any motor skill. But if you repeat it, your subsequent movements might become better. So this is the adaptive control which occurs. This is one of the examples.